Hi all, what a beautiful day it is. The vibes all around here tell us a beautiful tale, which is truly unforgettable. We are ready to kick off this event with a wonderful and galaxy of intellectuals, our wonderful panelists. But firstly, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Sivamari Premnath, a co-founder of Nomad Buddy, and I shall be your host today. So, at Nomad Buddy, we are building a community of digital nomads and we are going to look into their pain points that they face in Sri Lanka. On behalf of our team, we warmly welcome you all to this content filled discussion that we will be having today, which is going to be full of excitement and knowledge. I'm 100% sure that at the end of the day, right after this event, we will be making beautiful memories. And just like the quote says, days are not lost when memories are created. So, without much delay, let's get into this discussion and sink our minds into this depth of fun and knowledge. We have three very special guests today as our panelists who are going to share their thoughts and experiences as digital nomads themselves. So, firstly, our panelist is going to be Glenn Note, the general manager of Outpost, which is a co working and co living space at Weligama, and he is the head of community of Nomads Giving Back. He's a typical backpacker who has traveled to China, Indonesia, Malaysia, and currently living in Sri Lanka. Our second panelist is going to be Sasmini Bandara, a startup evangelist and a digital nomad herself who focuses on creating rich content on travel, remote work, and digital tools to unlock productivity and a growth mindset. Last but not least, we have Dulitha Wijewantha, who is fundamentally questing to improve Web3 UX at Qwest and also a massive part in helping founders set up teams and scale as well. So now that we have introduced our three very special panelists, shall we get right into the questions that we have? Okay, so the first question that we have is I'm going to direct it to our first panelist, who is Glenn. So we might have some audience here who actually doesn't know who a digital nomad is. So can you tell a little about who a digital nomad is?
Sure. Hi, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Um, so, digital nomad, these days I really make the distinction between digital nomad and remote worker. I think before you had digital nomads, and there were people who worked with a computer. You know, they could work from anywhere in the world because they had their computer. They were programmers, social media, marketers, entrepreneurs, just really anyone that could do their job from everywhere. Um, these days, we see a lot of remote workers as well, because some jobs have been made accessible for these kind of people, and they've, like customer service jobs and stuff, they've also all moved. So these are now all also what you would call digital nomads, and they're people that travel around because they realize that, why stay at home do your job if you can do it from anywhere? Well, why not visit exotic islands? Why not, broaden your horizons, seek adventure, have like beautiful beaches, beautiful nature around you. So yeah, that's kind of digital nomad.
Yes, thank you so much, Glenn, for that first question. So I think all of us kind of have understood what a digital nomad is. And like Glenn said, it is relatively a hybrid worker. So you're going to be partly a tourist and a worker as well. So the next question is I'm going to direct it to Sasmini. So you were actually living a normal life before where you have been following a standard work hours from 8 to 5:30 and so what actually inspired you to become a digital nomad? And was it a sudden decision or was it like a long time plan that you had like step by step process and then implemented it?
Yes, thank you so much for that question and lovely explanation what digital nomad is, and I agree with Glenn as well on that. And I think to the answer to what you asked is not a straightforward yes or no from me. So we just we lived a 9 to 5, like a normal 9 to 5 job, going on vacation when time permits, kind of life too in Colombo. And then I had to take a break from my work due to some health reasons. So I moved with Dulitha here to be moved down south just for 1 month, thinking, okay, so we will take a break from the city and just move around for a bit and stay there. But we had like a permanent place in Colombo by then as well. And that 1 month became 2 months, and then 3 months, and 4 months, and like that, it just went on. And we've been traveling ever since last year, August 2021. And we've been living, we started we didn't identify ourselves as digital nomads first because we were living in our own country. So and then when we started talking to more digital nomads who were actually coming into Hirikati even in the midst of COVID back in August, we were like, okay, so we are doing the same thing. So why don't we just start from our home base, Sri Lanka, which was like the number one destination for digital nomads and still on the list, right? So we just started just like that, and it is more to do with like the people and the community we met and how we saw other digital nomads and remote working was enabled with COVID and all of that, how it became part of our life naturally. And so it's not a straightforward answer that it was not planned, but there is a lot of planning going into becoming a digital nomad as well. And it was not a sudden decision either. So yeah.
Wow, Sasmini, I think what I always related to your answer was the fact that you went to golf for like a month and then it turned to 2 months, 3 months. I think all of us could relate to that as well because when you start traveling and experiencing the new culture, new food, I think you get so absorbed into this that you don't really want to leave that place. So, next question, I will direct it to Dulitha. So now you are not a normal employee. You have founded a business. You are a co-founder of Qwest as well. So as a founder and a co-founder, I just want to ask you. So now that you're traveling and working at the same time, how do you actually take the lead and take important decisions? Because you don't really get to meet the people or manage your team physically, right? So because you're a digital nomad, you are always on the run and you're always on traveling. So how do you actually manage being the founder and the co-founder of your business?
It's a very interesting question. I think the idea is that the moment you start to when you build like when you build a business is always like a set of systems that you put together so the moment that you make any of these decisions, your whole role is to build a team, let the team build a set of principles that they can execute and start running with it. So this actually gave me the thought process of how to build teams where they can take the decisions by themselves and also build systems around how you can do things very efficiently. A lot of things start like, for example, when you become like a person who works online or works from home. A lot of things, the way you work has to change because you're not going to be working in a very synchronous manner. You need to work in a very asynchronous manner where you need to be able to take notes, and you need to be able to explain yourself and communicate yourself on looms or miro or different things and kind of work with people around. So for me, this was something that we've been practicing for like probably for about the past 3 4 years. And it really helped to sort of it as a founder, it really helped to make that mandatory as well, because when you meet people in person, it's not that easy to build these kind of systems also. So when you actually cut the code and say, hey, you know what, the company has to be built remotely. Like, you can build organizations on the internet. When people say that you build a business on the internet, what it means is that you never meet people face to face, and if you do, you meet them to build a personal relationship but not to work. So we meet people, like for example, with whenever I come back to Sri Lanka, I meet the team members, but we are never meeting to do any work or anything. We're just meeting to get to know them as people. So that's probably my answer to that. Like, it's actually about how you build systems and make something that you think is a disadvantage in actually to be a primary advantage.
Yes. So, as a co founder, as myself, I do relate to you because I think building your system and your workflows with the team members rather than like physically staying there and telling them what to do is not the way anymore. I think we need to adapt to the new lifestyle as well and incorporate it while we travel as well. So, thank you, Dulita, for that wonderful answer. And next up, we are coming back to Glenn. So, your question is, so now you are living in Sri Lanka. You have your business as the Outpost. So you might have come across a lot of nomads while you're traveling, and as well you were in Sri Lanka. So what type of professionals or jobs were these people doing when you met them as digital nomads?
All right. Well, I think most of the people that I meet fall into like roughly two categories. I think one is the tech side. So you have a lot of developers, programmers, and most founders that are working on their own startup. They're sort of in the beginning phase of it, and they're also mostly from a technical background. Um, I think, yeah, if you find people that are working on their own projects, they're usually technical because, if you're not, it'll be hard to make something. And on the other hand, you have marketing. I think a lot of marketing professionals, copywriters, um, social media influencers or content creators. I don't know if it's just a Sri Lankan thing, but I've met a lot of them here in Bali, because before this I was the general manager of Outpost in Ubud. I found a lot more marketing, copywriting people. But broadly speaking, those are like the two categories. These days, we see a lot of people who work in customer service and recruiting. Like I see a lot of tech recruiters. So and they all work 9 to 5, but European hours. So they work afternoons here in Asia, which is a very chill gig, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so I also noticed the same trend as well, where obviously tech side of people are always going to be working because they have that flexible work schedule. But even influencers and content creators, I think now it's like that's the hype up trend, right? So, yes, okay. So next, now that we already got to know the professionals and what are the type of jobs, we need to talk about productivity. So, Sasmini, when we do talk about productivity, do you think that your productivity as an employee, as a digital nomad who is at work when you're traveling all around the world, has it either gone down or has it actually increased as you travel around?
Well, okay. I think I'll start with a story again. When we started back in when we started traveling around back in 2021, we actually got to know a big community of digital nomads through a productivity workshop that we did for digital nomads in Ahangama. So at co-working and co-living space. So when we were talking to actual digital nomads who have been traveling from like Germany to different various parts of other countries in Europe, we learned a lot about productivity as like 9 to 5 people who have been working 9 to 5 to who is transitioning into working remotely, who were working as consultants, co-founders remotely. So we learned a lot about ourselves and our productivity because back then as a 9 to 5 employee who was going into work, I productivity was different for me back then and compared to what it is now, because right now I prioritize a lot of work as well as the time that I spend to explore around the cities that we live in. So it is like kind of finding that right balance, and it's been a journey. So it's not like it has been increased or decreased. It is just some days it's really good productivity, some days it's like really bad productivity. So it just like adapted to the lifestyle basically. So when we were 9 to 5, we adapted that way, but when we are digital nomads, there's a like there are a lot of things to consider: time management, managing your energy, like being like having proper sleep and all of that, which sort of come into play when you are doing going to work as well, commute to work as well. So it just got used to it, I think, and still you getting used to how being productive as digital nomad and balancing that work life as well as travel life, because there are days that because flights, especially like when you have to fly, there are work schedules and then there are flight schedules, so you have to compromise. So you have to make sure that you prioritize the work you do, you manage your time properly before and meet the deadlines, and if there are any calls you have to postpone all of that and make sure that you get on the flight, or all of that. So it was not just like staying in one place and working, also but work traveling around while working. So productivity is something we work on a daily basis and still getting used to, and still exploring.
Yeah, I think as you said, productivity, you cannot really just get it on one day, right? So you need it's like a learning process. So I totally understand that. And just to follow up questions, Asmini, so now that you have these flight schedules and working schedules as well, how do you manage that? Like, do you have like a sheet where you say these are the flight times, these are the working times, or like how do you do that?
So I think Dulitha can answer this better than me because he's the one who introduced me to all these digital tools that I use most of the day. But so both of us work on, like, we have like strict calendars, so everything goes on our calendars. So that's like to sort of not to be very what do you call busy bees, but to make sure that we know exactly what our days and weeks look like, so we can sort of factor in other things or ad hoc work that we get, or ad hoc like friends coming into the country. So just today, like we are in Nepal, and a few of our friends from Sri Lanka got their flight delayed. So we have everything on our calendar, so we know exactly at what time can we meet them if there are ad hoc things like that, right? So networking, everything is really important. So managing all of this is on our calendars, and both of us have like since we are I work two remote jobs, so for all of that we have like one calendar, and all of it is synced from lunch to dinner to everything is just on calendar, just to make sure that I have a sense of time. I know like this is how my day is going on, but it doesn't mean like we try to stick to it, but it doesn't mean that we are very strict about it either. So yeah, it's like flexible, but yeah, that's how sort of like do the time management and time blocking while we work.
Wow, I think it takes a lot of planning and scheduling. And Dulitha, like Sasmini said, I think you are the man behind all this planning and all that. So, keeping that in mind, I just wanted to ask you, Dulitha. So, as I mentioned before, because you are the co founder and the founder, so you get to plan your own schedule and help Sasmini along with it. So, do you think that even the employees who are working with you in your company, do you think this digital nomadic lifestyle is actually suitable for them, or do you think that they need to adapt and change as you all did and learn on the go? What do you think, Tulita?
It's a very good question. I think the way to think about it is that, like, what type of work you do, right? And then also your life circumstance, because it's imagine you're a person who have kids and like you have a family. Travel is going to be a little difficult and like quite expensive, so that's something that you have to, realize the life circumstance. But I think more or less the way that I think like to think about it is that when you're working, there's sort of like a commitment that you sign up for, and that commitment is something that you can actually measure with time. So in our case, like, one of the things that I have implemented is that we do something called like time tracking on things. So we do about like 40 hours of time tracking per person, and with that we try to identify like how does like the productivity cycles work, right? And one of the things that we, to our surprise, when we first implemented it, why we did that was that when we this was during This was actually when we first implemented remote, like when we wanted to do like complete remote work pre-COVID. We realized that especially people who work in IT, they tend to overwork a lot. So they tend to like work probably like more than they should, right? And when we kind of try to identify why that was, it was because they just made a habit out of it. So then we implemented this like a strict time tracking mechanism of doing like, let's measure time against like projects and different things people do, and then identify things. And with that, like imagine you'd be able to notice like if someone is like getting overworked, like they are to meet their deadlines or obligations, that they're overworking. And when that happens, most of the time you just need someone to go and give a reality check, right? So it when you do these kind of little tools, it helps a lot. And uh, from a performance perspective, if you measure time and find out, okay, what's your performance, and you measure that against the goals that you're achieving, you can get like sort of a balance. And like my perspective and what I understood as like for like running this for about 2.5 years now, is that I think the performance doing like working remotely is, I think, 2 times better than like working at a desk job. Like it's the productivity is insane. So I would say that we'll never go back, right? So that's my sort of explanation of it. uh, the harder part is that you have to also think about a lot of other life, like wrenches that gets fallen into, like when you are doing, let's say, when you're a digital nomad, your environment always changes. So let's say like tomorrow, like in Nepal, uh, elections are happening tomorrow, and a lot of shops and stuff are not open. So you have to kind of make a plan on what you're going to do, because otherwise, like, you might not have the same routine or comfort that you have when you're at home or like doing a same routine. So these are like, I think, gotchas when it comes to performance. So if you kind of mind those, I don't think it's something that's that difficult to figure out.
I think definitely those things we need to consider as you move from country to country or place to place. I think those factors needs to be considered as a digital nomad itself. Glenn, so what I have to ask you is that why did you choose Outpost in Sri Lanka? Like, was there any specific reason? Because you already have Outpost in Bali. So why specifically in Sri Lanka? And did you like have a passion or like an interest that you need to wanted to come to Sri Lanka and start it? What was the story behind it?
Wow. So not my decision to come to Sri Lanka, but my boss's decision. But I can give you a bit of an explanation. I mean, so we have, as you said, we're already in Bali. We have 3 locations in Bali: Ubud, Canggu, and Penistaan. And then the most recent addition is here in the south in Weligama. Um, I think if you look at it, like I've been here a month and a half now, I really feel like it feels like Bali 15 years ago. It feels like it has a lot of potential, and a lot of digital nomads have already figured this out, and they're already here, and I think more are coming. Um, Unfortunately, Sri Lanka had a bad few years, to say the least. But I think if it weren't for that, like they would already be here. And I think talking to people, uh, all sorts of remote workers and digital nomads that are here, that they really feel like some of them, for example, have come from Bali, and they said, Bali is getting too busy for me. Um, I want something more unspoiled nature, um, and that's the reason they come here. Um, I think, for example, in a place like Bali or Chiang Mai, you have a lot more facilities. You have everything you would require. Maybe here that's a bit less the case, but what you get in return is that you have the nature I spoke about. You have great surfing, you have delicious food, and you have a more authentic culture maybe. Um, So for us, that was the reason to come here. I think it's definitely going to boom for digital nomadism and for tourism in general, and it's great to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think as the co-founder of Nomad Buddy, we are still exploring, and we did identify that Sri Lanka is one of the best hotspots as well. And following up that answer, Glenn, I just wanted to ask you, what do you like about Sri Lanka? Because you have been here for like a month. And another question to add on to that is, what do digital nomads like about Sri Lanka in your experience as a general manager of Outpost?
All right. So what I like about it, so at first, like I didn't decide to come here. I was sent here, right? So I heard about Sri Lanka, but I never really thought, oh yeah, let's go to Sri Lanka. But then coming here, I'm glad I did. Um, like I went, I went on safari. I drive my scooter through these beautiful sunsets every day. Um, and for me, that's really what I like about it. It brings a sense of peace to me. Um, and like the occasional snake or scorpion, I'll gladly take anytime. I think for a lot of our members or like nomads in general, that's why they do it. Um, Especially if you're into surfing, this is a great place. Um, yeah, from what I gather from talking to them, it's like, yeah, there's great surfing. It's kind of unspoiled, but you can still, you rent a scooter and you can do whatever you want. You're free to do as you please. Um, and it helps that they have nice infrastructure, like not just Outposts, but other places as well, where they can feel comfortable doing their work, having the kind of place where they can get a good night's rest, where they can find a community of like-minded nomads. And then when they're not working, they can go crazy.
Yes, I think what you said, the two aspects of Sri Lanka is where you can get that sense of peacefulness and, that serene feeling whenever you want to travel, riding a scooter or a motorbike, you get that sense of freedom. And then the other aspect, we can go crazy as well. So, yes, okay. So now that we have seen why Sri Lanka is one of the best spots for digital nomads, Sasmini, can we talk about your experience in the places, the food items, and of course, networking and the community aspect of digital nomads from the places you have traveled, and especially Sri Lanka itself?
Yeah. When Glenn was mentioning about Weligama sunsets, I remember like one time when we were traveling in from Weligama to Hungama, seeing the sunset, and like it's amazing. It's really amazing, and it is this is the season down south. So this is like the best time to be in Weligama, and even when we were living in Hirikati, that is like mother. So 3 hours from Colombo, and Weligama also it is like 1 hour, and we still went to Weligama because Dulitha used to surf, and I used to back then, yeah, I used to just chill at the beach, I think. But like, yeah, we met a lot of people, and we had so many friends who were from Hirikati going to Weligama as well. And then like down south, when it comes to digital nomads, they just travel around the stretch southern region, and it was amazing. Everyone just talks about sunsets in the beach. It's really nice, and I still remember we were in Hangama and to watch the last sunset of the year 2021, and it was beautiful. So and there were so many people like who were just watching the sunset and everything. And I must say, like there were when we were down south, even though there was COVID, there were a lot of people coming in for the seasons, for surfing, just like Glenn mentioned, and working from there, we met so many people, not just from like around the world, but also from just from Colombo. A lot of people come in during the weekends or just work from there for a couple of days and go back home. So things like that. And more, not just the peace that brings with the nature, but also I think it is the infrastructure is also really good because Sri Lanka is a travel destination and tourism was um, one of the best industries in Sri Lanka, right? So I think because of that, infrastructure was also really good. So because of that, even during COVID, even after we left Sri Lanka, we heard a lot of people coming in as well, and even this season, we've heard that a lot of. So I work with another volunteer organization called Sea Sisters, which is just full of like volunteers who are coming from different countries to work uh, vacation in Sri Lanka, but at the same time they on their Saturdays they volunteer to teach Sri Lankan girls school community how to surf and swim. So all of these guys are also coming in December. So it's like digital nomads are coming back, and digital nomads love the nature and the food and the hospitality. That's what I was thinking, like I forgot something. It is also the hospitality. Even if you are like, if you are a Sri Lankan, you still feel the hospitality of your people, like how they treat to others. They don't even care whether you are from Sri Lanka or from a different country, because sometimes even like when we speak, sometimes people think we are from India and they actually treat us as foreigners as well. So that has happened to us when we went down south. But still, like it's the beauty of how our people treat others as well. And this we noticed from the other countries as well. We still haven't gone to Bali because of we there is a visa problem for Sri Lankans to go into Bali at the moment, but planning to go to Bali as well, and we will definitely check out Outpost there too. And when we were going into Thailand too, then we went to Malaysia, and then now we are in Nepal at the moment. So all these countries, the same, the vitality, like the food, the culture, the places to go to, and the people are amazing. From like Malaysia, the people treat you like you are you are part of the family, and we were so surprised. And like just going into like if you are a regular in a place, you are treated like priority all the time. So and that is just continued throughout Asia, which is like really nice to see, and which was really nice experience for us. And Asian food is amazing, like cuisine everywhere is amazing. We didn't expect it to be amazing. Like we have heard Malaysian food is like Malaysia is known for food, right? So it's really good. So we were expecting it to be really good, but then when we came to Nepal, we had like a pleasant surprise because momos to all the fried rice to everything is again really good, including their Korean to Thai cuisine. So when we go into a country, we also go and see whether the other cuisines that they cook is also good, which is like really nice experience again as digital nomads, I think. Yeah, it's been amazing. I think it is mostly the places that you visit while you're in Sri Lanka, and the people, and that peace, which you can sort of carry around with you to other Asian countries as well. And this is what we have heard from our fellow digital nomads we have met as well. So and especially like one of the things that I should mention is like we met a lot of nomads who are like freelancing and who are yoga teachers, and everyone who came to Sri Lanka for retreats, yoga classes, yoga teaching classes, and everything. So it's been an amazing 1 year for us in terms of like meeting people and experiences. Yeah, I think I spoke too much on that.
No, no, no. I think the experience, I could literally hear the passion and the enjoyment that you've had the past year, right? And just listening to you, I just want to get up and just start traveling now itself. So, now, because you have been traveling a lot and you have been at Nepal for some time now, Dulitha, what is your day like? A typical day as a digital nomad now that you are in Nepal or in any other country? What is your typical day look like?
That's a pretty broad answer. I think every country that you go to, you build like a routine. So for me, I think for us, like me and Sasmini, one of the things that we try to do is to build an initial routine in a place so that you can kind of get into the motion of working and kind of exploring. So for us, like when we came here, we went to a coffee shop where we just go every morning at like 6:30 or something. We just have a coffee, and uh, after that we come back and start working, or depending on like which day of the week we explore somewhere. Weekends we plan and explore. Like it's a I think typical day. I think it's just the same as you would live in a normal, like you live normally, right? The difference is that it's a different place, right? So you can get to try out different things, meet different people. So there is a element of pleasant surprises along the way. So I think that would be like my view of it. So it's like every day is like sort of different, and that's kind of the fun part about it.
Like, what is like your biggest and favorite memory that you've created until now? Like, from all the places you've been at, like, what is the most favorite and the memorable thing that you cannot ever forget?
That's you're putting me on the spot here. So I think I would say my most favorite memory was like when we went to France. So I actually proposed to Sasmini in France. So that's actually one of my most favorable, like memorable memories in like travel anywhere in the world. So I guess that's my answer for that.
Yeah, I think that's a safe answer too. Okay, so Glenn, now that you have been at Weligama, right? What do you want to tell a digital nomad? Or like, what do you want to tell a usual normal individual who wants to transform into a digital nomad life, and he wants to be a nomad, but he doesn't want to know exactly where to start? So, what will you tell as your guidance and the support for that individual?
So I think a lot of people who work from home now, they they do think that it's a big leap to go into traveling and working, and it's kind of true in that you need to be sure that you're gonna have good internet, that you're gonna be productive, especially if you're not necessarily a freelancer but a remote worker. If you have strict hours where you have to work and you can't deliver on that, then your digital nomad dream is gonna come down really quickly. But I think if you're serious about it, um, there are plenty of places, and again, not just Outpost, but like there are a lot of places that can offer you like a soft landing, right? You can go to a place like ours where you might pay more than you would pay staying in the local place that you rent, but at least you know that we got your back, you know. So you can try it out for a month, 2 months, whatever you feel comfortable with. Um, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the way you're always going to do it, but it's a soft landing, a soft entry. You can try it like that. You can see if it's something for you. Can you be productive? Is internet a problem? Is the time zone a problem? Like I know a lady, she's an architect, like a landscape architect in Brazil. She takes meetings at 3 a.m., but she's fine with that. So some people might find that horrible. They might think about that and be like, no, it's not for me, digital nomadism. Um, so I think the best advice I can give is, yeah, plan, go somewhere, try it out, and it's really not as difficult as you think. Like there are a lot of people doing it successfully, um, and there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to. And more specifically, actually, uh, the advice I would give people if they want to come here specifically is just come on over. Because I see so many people, they're like, is it safe? I'm like, of course it's safe. And those safety concerns, I think they have with a lot of places. So not just with Sri Lanka, but if you're from the United States and you've never really traveled, or at least never really traveled for a month, 2 months by yourself, because most of these digital nomads are actually by themselves. Actually, now that like remote work is more of a thing, we see more couples, but the majority is still like people alone. So it might be daunting at first, but yeah, just give it a try. Plan, try it out, see if it's something for you.
So a very nice point that you said, Glenn, was that this is a soft fall. So you could like fall back on this community, and people are there to support each other as a community. And before in this discussion, Sasmini and Dulitha also mentioned how volunteering and giving back to the society is a huge part of being in the digital nomad community. So as Sri Lankan citizens, what do you think that we can do to promote volunteering between these digital nomads and how to actually enhance this community in Sri Lanka? Glenn, it's yeah, anyone can answer.
Well, yeah, if you guys want to take it.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. And then I think Dulitha can add. Yeah, yeah. I think, okay, so if I got the question right, it is how we can promote being digital nomads and in Sri Lanka and how we can add value to it, right?
Yes.
I think there are a lot of courses and activities that digital nomads can actually get involved when they come to Sri Lanka. Like for an example, that Glenn just today had a beach cleanup, right? And just like that. So there are so many activities. There are surf competitions, there are sailing competitions, there is like where you can teach English to kids. There's so many activities in Sri Lanka that digital nomads can be part of, and I think where to find them is like an answer that I can also sort of tell you. We have been like finding those activities through like there are Facebook groups just for expats and also just for digital nomads and surf community. So which are very active Facebook groups, Facebook group communities, and then through like mostly the restaurants to co-living places to co-working places which are based out of southern region, because that's the mainly the areas that most of the digital nomads go to other than Allah and Kandy. But when it comes to working base from a base, it is usually like the southern part of the country is the first choice for most of the digital nomads. And I actually, frankly, don't have the experience in the northern region to east region to say that to recommend. But from the experience, the work experience I've had, there are so many startups and startup locations for working spaces that you can work out of in northern as well as eastern part of the country as well. So being part of communities that is typically advocating for to work is somewhere you can find all these activities. And in Sri Lanka most of our digital creators to startup community to the businesses in the ecosystem is doing a lot of work to actually to facilitate and to bring to facilitate digital nomad lifestyle in Sri Lanka. So we have experienced it in the first hand by like throughout the few months that we were staying in Pirikatia, Weligama, and Nahagama. That's I think like the best thing that Sri Lanka is the locality is supportive towards promoting the lifestyle. So digital nomads don't really have to worry about coming to Sri Lanka and working from here, working from Sri Lanka, and getting involved in different other social activities as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is actually so relatable because from the community perspective, I think it's very nice, and I think you get that wholesome feeling as well in giving back to the society as well. So we have gotten so many questions from the audience as well. So I'm just going to pick up one question, and any of y'all could answer that. So we have one question where the audience have asked, considering the current economic situation in Sri Lanka, it is challenging for Sri Lankans to actually live as digital nomads. So in terms of visa, and there are so many other expenses as well. So what do you suggest to overcome these expenses and to overcome and actually start becoming a digital nomad, and what is going to be the drawback for the economy?
I think Dulitha should take this.
Uh, I think this is a very interesting question. So the current economic situation, I think being a digital nomad is not probably easy. But I guess if you're a person who's working in IT, this might probably be a good time to sort of do that as well. Because specifically, like it probably is something that you could potentially do, purely because of uh, like if you can manage certain things, it makes sense. And frankly, like sometimes this might come out as a surprise that we found like Thailand to be like way less expensive than Sri Lanka when we traveled across. So it was something that we found very surprising. So I think this is something that you have to think through with your own finances. And for Sri Lanka on its own, like for digital nomads coming into Sri Lanka, I think that's like a great thing for the economy because it'll support a lot of kind of like the tourism things that we sort of have at the moment. So I think it has negatives and positives both. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yes, Sri Lanka is going through an economic crisis, but as all three of our panelists did mention today, Sri Lanka has so much of potential. So, if you could look into the different factors and start planning, I think all of us could become digital nomads as well. So, the next question that we have gotten from the audience is, what is the best time to visit Sri Lanka as a digital nomad?
Um, I think it is this time. It is the season. It starts in September and go until April. This is when most of the that is because of a lot of tourists come in. It get busy, but at the same time, the businesses cater to the lifestyle as well. So there's short stay, long stay, everything is enabled in Sri Lanka as well, just like any other country. Airbnb spaces to everything is allowed, and this is like one of best seasons to be there. But I think before September, it is usually like the monsoon, the rains and everything. So it's not very great, not the greatest time to be, but all around the entire year is actually a really good time to be in Sri Lanka, if I say it like that. Yeah, but one of the best time to be is right now, actually. So If I am to prioritize, I would prioritize this time, because most of the Europeans also like fly in because it's the winter there, and they come to tropics. So yeah, and in terms of Sri Lanka weather, it is a good, really nice weather to be in Sri Lanka right now. Yeah.
Yes, I think this season is going to be like a big season as well. And now that we are coming out of the COVID and, still adapting, I think this will be like a whole different season for all the digital nomads that are arriving to Sri Lanka as well. So next we have a question. What are the best experiences that a digital nomad can receive in regards to entrepreneurship? So Glenn, what do you think about this?
Well, um, I actually think like it's that old thing where like travel broadens the mind. I think one of the best things about being a digital nomad and an entrepreneur is that you get exposed to so many new things, new problems, new solutions everywhere in the world. Um, like I don't have my own business, but I love seeing businesses all around the world where I go. Just seeing how they do things differently. Sometimes you think, "Wow, that's stupid." Sometimes you think, "Wow, that's great." Um, but if you never go out there, you never expose yourself to all these things, you will never know. Um, and then there's also, of course, all the other people you meet, all the other digital nomads, all the other remote workers. Uh, Oftentimes they work in the same field as you do, or you can find people that work in the same field you do, and they will have solutions for your problems. Um, so for me, like if I were an entrepreneur and a digital nomad, that would be that would be great. I think I'm not sure, but maybe Dulitha feels the same.
Yeah, I can sort of pitch in on that. Like, when like one of the examples I had for this was like when we were traveling in Thailand, we found this very interesting idea where like in 7-Elevens and all these kind of marts, you find like a machine where you can like put like one bath, like 10 bath, and you can measure your weight, right? Uh, that's something I've never seen anywhere before. Like, how, like, what the hell, right? You go to a grocery store and you measure your weight. But then I was thinking, like, oh shit, this could be actually a really cool idea. Because every day, like, imagine you're a person who have a weight scale, who actually would, go and every day measure your weight if you're a person who's training or doing something, right? Things like that, like, it changes your, perspective of what are the possibilities, right? And in some cases, like in certain places that you travel to, like the payment modes and things they have, it gives you like a it sometimes blows your mind. And the thing about entrepreneurship is like you need to be mind blown all the time to come up with new things. So if you can travel, you get mind blown all the time, right? So it's one of those very very simulation for the mind.
Yes, I think I totally agree with that because as you travel, you meet new people, you meet their perspectives, and it's definitely going to be different from what you have thought and what you have been brought up in, right? So I think I was just mind blown right now just listening to that idea that you just saw. So we also have another question for Dulitha. When working at different time zones, how do you actually manage the time?
Oh, this is actually one of those like uh, you know difficult questions to answer, because sometimes I work in the PST time zone as well, which is like the San Francisco time, which is almost 12-hour difference between Sri Lanka, like the IST and PST. So it's certainly difficult. Like sometimes the nature of like managing time zones, but at the same time, one of the things that if you're a digital nomad, one of the things that you could potentially do is that depending on especially as an entrepreneur, like depending on what your plan is for like a quarter or something like that, you can decide to be in a specific time zone that is convenient for what you want to do. like for example, for us, like we are planning to actually go and stay in United States, and like kind of like even like you know, Mexico or any of those kind of time zones, just to be in very close to the PST time zone. So it's something that you have to manage. And like for example, if you're a person in Sri Lanka, if you are a person in Sri Lanka working for like European time zone is quite easier, because it's a little like easy on that end. And if you are a person who's working for like, let's say, Australia, uh, it's even better because you can, you know, wake up like way early and do your stuff and then like chill towards the end of the night, right? So there's nothing much to sort of do. So it really depends on how you want to organize things. Because like I know some people who just wake up at like, let's say, 5 or like 4:30, 4 in the morning, and it's like 9 o'clock in Australia, and then they just work for 8 hours, and 8 hours with that is like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in Sri Lanka, right? So after that, you are completely free to do whatever you want, right? So
Yeah, I think that is so true. I think it depends on like what we prefer. Like you said, if you want to work early in the morning and you're an early morning bird, then definitely that zone suits you. So I think we have covered all the questions and the doubts that they have asked from the audience. And yes, so we have done the Q&A session from the audience as well. And with that, Norbert Buddy is now in full gear. So, on behalf of the whole team, we thank Glenn, we thank Sasmini, and especially we thank Dulitha for joining with us in sharing all your experiences and the knowledge that we specifically need about digital nomads and how it will impact Sri Lanka. And I would like to formally conclude this event with this phrase: be like a flower, survive in the rain, but use it to grow. So, no matter what the challenge is, we need to get out of our comfort zone and be the change. We are standing here at the shoreline of the ocean of change with a wave of excitement and uncertainty lapping at our toes. So let's all join hands in making Sri Lanka better, and maybe we would become digital nomads one day too. So, with that being said, we would be putting up Nomad Buddies social media links on the chat, and all the audience, all our members could join us and support us and stay tuned with us with all the upcoming events that we have planned for all of you all. And as we conclude this event, I'm Sivamari Premnath, your host for today, and I'm officially signing off. Bye, guys.
cheers.
I guess.
Bye.